What is up, Battle Union fans, and welcome to the Power Rankings for Week 6 of the Battle Union Season 2. And of course, you're here with your two analysts, as always, myself, Schady, and
myself, Shroomraver. Yes, hello, Battle Union fans. Welcome, as Schady has said, to the Week 6 Power Rankings. Once again, we are a little bit behind schedule with this once again. Sort of real-life things and stuff have got in the way of us recording, but hopefully we can try and get it back on track as soon as possible.
Also, the entire Thursday, I thought it was Wednesday, until it was night, and I was like, oh, it's Wednesday. Thursday.
You see, that doesn't help.
Yeah, that was not helpful at all. Fun fact of today.
Did they not? Fun fact of which day though, Shard? Are you sure you got the day right?
I don't know, fucking Monday.
Did they not teach you this
Monday today, right?
in German school? The days of the week.
What is a German school? What is a school?
Ah, fair point.
We don't do school here.
Anyway, I guess what we're probably going to do before we go off on some ridiculous tangent, as we probably will inevitably do anyway,
yes.
Is get onto our power rankings for the week.
That's a good idea.
At number 12, we do both, I believe, have Richie.
Yes, indeed.
And Liverpool FC. Richie has unfortunately had to kind of back out this season.
And turn into Ripchie.
He's turned into Ripchie. He's got a lot of stuff going on in his life right now. So he's kind of had to back out, and essentially the rest of his match is going to be the 6-0 forfeits because it's quite late in the season. He already wasn't able to make playoffs. So we've kind of... Liverpool FC are kind of dormant at the moment. They're not really doing anything. So we don't, unfortunately, have much to say about him, do we?
He's still pretty. I like him.
Ah, well, there is that. that is undoubtedly true.
Rip and Richie.
But yeah, ripping the
You
finest
shall
of
be
Richies. Yes, this is true.
So moving on to number 11, I think.
Yeah, moving on. Yeah, number 11 and at 11, we are in agreement on this, aren't we?
Yes, this is gross.
Yes.
And for the first time in ages for me, or ever, I don't actually know, Baby Isinglass for me. He's 11. Hey!
Yay, not bad, not bad.
He beat Barry, which is cool. Quill, Barry, whatever. He's Barry now. First things first, why did you have Night Slash over knockoff again? Please. You're not gonna get a crit, you're not Shroom, you're not lucky enough.
Hey now, let's be nice about this.
No?
I was lucky. I'm not lucky anymore. Josh is the one who gets lucky. Remember?
This is true. But you're also lucky. Shut up. Yeah, don't run Night Slash. 5 base power. Even if something doesn't have an item for whatever reason, knockoff is still better. It's just 5 base damage isn't smart. What I also don't like generally, or most of the time, is running max defense on something and no HP investment. Depends on the Pokemon, of course. If you have a high HP set, it works. Something like Rotom Heat doesn't particularly work because you're not going to take hits on the other side very, very well. But, if it is just 100% there for a certain Pokemon, I guess it can work. Just something I'm not a fan of. And then we get into the game, and he has a +1 Slowbro, which is at not max health. I think like 60-70%-ish against the Thundy T. And he stayed in, and he killed the Thundy as it went for Nasty Plot. That was ballsy as all fuck. He would have died to the Thunderbolt,
I don't know. I think having counter, he had the chance to take it.
It depends on the Thundy set, of course, which he didn't.
Oh, that's
I'm pretty sure he didn't know it at that point. If it was a spec set, he would have just dropped. If it was life up, he would have just dropped. It was ballsy. It worked out. Whether it was a good play or not, we shall never know. If it works, it's a good play most of the time. So yeah, balls are good. Don't quote that. Please quote that.
It will be
so
quoted
worth
all
quoting.
over the place.
I'm not even mad.
Hashtag balls are good in the comment section down below and on Twitter. Let the world know what Schady is saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that was a huge moment in the game, and sometimes you'll see these kind of plays that are hugely risky, but in the mind of someone who's making that play, sometimes you just can't take the risk of something setting up. It's like if you don't want something to set up a sub potentially, or you don't want someone to set up a Swords Dance. In this case, it was Nasty Plot. He doesn't want to take that risk because as soon as that Thunderous sets up a Nasty Plot, he is Gonzo. That is the end for him, my friend.
Or agility even. That would have been an option because Weavile is
that
a thing.
That too.
Which is a beautiful thing about Thundy, but that's a different story.
Yeah.
He later on switched in Togekiss into a very, very obvious Venusaur's Sludge Bomb that was by himself. And he risked the speed tie and all that just to get off a defog. It worked, but it was really not the play in my opinion.
I don't know. I have to disagree with you there.
You always do.
Well, sometimes I agree with you when I think you're correct. But the thing is, in this instance, he needs the defog to get Weavile and Yan Mega in. And he's made the decision in his mind they are more important than Togekiss. All he thinks he needs Togekiss for is get the defog off, make sure he can get Weavile and Yan Mega in as freely as possible. And they did come in fairly clutch in various times towards the end.
Yeah, but he should have sacked his, what was it, Rotom Heat, whatever was in, and then onto Togekiss, because this way he risked the speed tie and not getting off the defense in the first place. That is my issue.
Yeah.
Sacking Togekiss, yeah, there is completely fine to get off the rocks for those two big threats, but hard switching it into Venusaur without having any speed investment, questionable.
Yeah, I guess.
He also let his two main, I think, wasn't Yan Mega dead relatively early? I'm pretty sure it was. He let two of his main things that deal with Mega Venusaur die early, which could have been an issue. Ended up not being one. He got the victory. It's all good in the hood. Basically.
Pretty much is it. Most of the points damage. I thought you'd have quite liked the Togekiss set. It was power flinch.
No, it depends on the player, on the opponent. If it gets eaten, it's fine. Or against Shroom.
Wow, there it is. Hey, now, don't you dare try and power flinch.
I will with Headbutt Manaphy.
No, you won't. I'll hax you out.
Fuck.
I'll just crit you. That's what I always do.
I run T-Wave, Dark Pulse, Thunder T, and flinch your entire team.
How dare you, sir?
Even the Crocodile.
How dare you?
Especially the Crocodile. Anyway.
I will see you burn in hell for this. Yeah, but with before we sort of try killing each other, let's move on to talk about our number 10 on our list, which is in fact for both of us going to be the man that Baby I faced down in his battle, and that was Quill.
Yep.
Quill and the Dungannon Typhlosions.
He dropped a lot for both of us.
What's that?
He dropped a lot for both of us.
Yeah, he's moved down. He's moved down quite a lot. Started to look at the overall record, and Quill unfortunately does not have the best of records. This is one of those weeks where someone has moved down quite a lot, reflecting both that and the results of other people as well. Yeah. Quill bringing the counter to Weavile, which is of course Infernape. Which, to be fair, takes its stabs, destroys it with Mach Punch, can slack off the damage, and still outspeeds an adamant Mega Altaria and has Gunk Shot. But of course, as Rai knows, that never hits. I liked that he was looking to bring Hazard Stack. You know, Togekiss is the only real member of Baby I's team that really wants to be hazard removal. Hitmonlee has better things to do. Yan Mega is hazard removal.
Best defog in the game.
The joys. I faced that on the ladder not so long ago. Defog Roost Toxic Yan Mega.
I mean, it is the best defog in the game right after Charizard.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Oh, I don't know. Volcarona's pretty good.
Oh, this is true.
Doesn't get defog, does it? What am I talking about?
It doesn't, but it's still very good hazard removal.
Yeah. It's so good it doesn't even need the move.
Exactly.
But yeah, I like that that he brought hazard removal. He of course has Sableye for Prankster's Taunt and Spin Block, so any kind of spinning or defogging he can try and deal with Sableye, so that's nice. Yeah, I liked a lot what he was bringing. Nasty Plot, Expert Belt, Thunderous Test, ow. Just ow. It outspeeds a Jolly Crocodile, which is nice. I will be. Facade Crawdaunt with Swords Dance is pretty spooky. You know, predicting the kind of burning shenanigans his opponent can throw at him. Mm-hmm. So he's got Facade Crawdaunt, which is a nice touch. We've said a lot about the game. That huge moment, early, not early, sort of early to mid game with the Thunderous versus the Slowbro matchup. That was a huge moment. Quill looking to take advantage of a good matchup, but Baby I just not playing ball. Which we've mentioned. He was making some sort of crafty doubles. Gunk Shot Ape as Baby I goes into Altaria. That was nice. Like Gunk Shot doesn't 2-hit KO, but it gets the nice damage. So you know, fair enough. And it looked like he was playing Mega Venusaur pretty well. It looked like it was being a bit of a thorn in Baby I's side. Baby I had to sack off Mons just to break the sub. I thought that Quill, much like some members of the Battle Union, games are won and lost on just one or two moments. and I think sacking Mega Venusaur to Rotom was one of those moments. You know, as we saw later, Aqua Jet from Crawdaunt takes out the Rotom, but Quill, quite wisely I think, usually, was calking sort of the worst case scenario. He was calking max HP, max Fizz Death, which would have taken an Aqua Jet, I think. So he felt like he couldn't take that risk. As it was a risk he could have taken, but, you know, he was playing the sort of safest possible version of the game in his mind. So fair enough, it was just unfortunate for him that it didn't really work out. And then, I've got down in my notes here, Quill misses a gunk shot with Ape, but Apes do that all the time.
You're not wrong.
So, yeah, gunk shot Ape missed, that's unfortunate. Rotom, you know, if it had gone down, it would have been easier for Quill, but Rotom was able to do huge work on the Infernape and left Weavile to take out the Crawdaunt.
Yeah, and like the thing with Barry's team building is he has almost every answer in the game to Weavile.
Yeah.
Like Skarmory, Mega Venusaur can check it and take every hit and hit it back reasonably hard. Crawdaunt can live almost every hit, barring fighting coverage. But since his Skarm was Spadef, Venusaur was more offensive, he decided that Fizz Dev Infernape is a very good answer, which is very, very smart on his part. Because it's easy to be like, oh, I have a Skarmory, but it's Spadef. It's not going to take a Life of Icicle Crash all that well, or knock off, whatever. So Fizz Dev Nape is very, very nice on that. As well as Rock Slide on Skarmory is very nice in the matchup against Baby Eye. I like that. It was a nice idea. And everything else you covered, so that's pretty nice of you.
Alrighty, well, I do what I can.
Why the fuck you lying?
So, yeah, with that pretty much said and done, we can move on to number 9 on our list, and this is where we're going to slightly start to differ in our opinions. Do you want to go first?
Sure, why not? My number 9 is Sizz, who didn't actually play this week, because Richie forfeited. Or stepped out, you know what I mean. But he played Sly for his week 1 match, finally, which was supposed to be Gabe, but it wasn't. It was Sly, who's now coach. So that happened in week 6. They played week 1, which is always beautiful. Okay, the first thing I didn't like is that he let Registeel die so early. That's the only thing I didn't like. Considering how important Registeel was, Kyurem Black could have maybe cleaned him up, depending on the set. Or just put huge damage on his team, etc. But then Licky Licky happened, and Licky Licky won.
Yeah.
That's the whole story of the game.
Happened,
That's literally
it. Happened all over Sly's face.
Oh, God. I don't want to see that. Someone draw fan... Don't draw fan art.
Nor did Sly, but it happened.
That's some interesting fan art. Send it to Shroom. I don't want to see it. He does.
Well, I'll tag you in it a week on. You don't have a choice. You'll see it one way or the other.
Yeah, Licky Licky happened. Sizz was the last guy I expected to just beat someone with one Pokemon that's just defensive and sitting there. Because he isn't the person that enjoys doing that. But it was beautiful to see because it was a fucking Licky Licky, and I love Licky Licky. Yeah, shout out to Licky Licky and Sly not prepping enough for it.
Yeah,
basically that.
Okay, fair enough.
It reminds me of a certain week 1 game in a different league where he underestimated a certain threat that ended up sweeping him because he got unlucky. I don't know what I'm talking about, but you know.
I don't know where you're going with this, to be honest. That doesn't sound like Sly at all to me.
Welcome to Sly's battles where he underestimates PU threats.
Basically.
And you.
But yeah, not I guess too much to say about Sizz overall.
No, he won a game and played it well, which is cool.
Yeah, he's looking good.
He always is.
He does. But yeah, I'll move on I guess to my number 9, and that is going to be Enzo. Enzo and the Swiskers, who lost out to Fredo. Well, let me rephrase that. He lost out to Entei. I quite enjoyed Enzo shit-talking people who aren't even in the league. I mentioned this in the Union News. He was shit-talking Jack, the Don Fanatic. I don't know if you saw this one, Charlie.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, but I enjoyed that. I don't think Jack will have done, but who really cares? And his team names. I like what he's doing with his team names. But that's all sort of extra stuff. Looking at what Enzo brought to the party, sub-bulk up Gallade is good.
Yep.
And it kind of looked like it could have done a number on Jack, which is fairly ironic given Jack's use of bulk up Hitmonchan. So you'd have hoped he would be a bit better prepared for it. mixed defensive with Steadfast for the potential Megalop fake out.
Wait,
I like
why
it.
are you still talking about Jack when he was playing Frito? Excuse me?
I'm not. I'm talking about Enzo.
Yeah, you said Jack could have done work against Jack, but it's Frito. And then,
Oh, did I?
And you said...
Oh, I'm terribly sorry.
That was a whole
I'm
big
getting
mess.
things completely mixed up, but you all know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Enzo versus Frito.
That
there
one
we go.
guy.
Yes, that one Welsh person. But yeah, I like the entire build of Mega Gallade. You know, looking for the Steadfast boost off Megalopony's fake out. Unfortunately, there was no Megalopony.
And still wouldn't have
but
odds-bet fun fight today.
yeah, potentially not. But it takes 2 Life Orb Dracos, which is cool. So what he wants to do is summon it and set up on it, and set up on the Vaporeon. But you know, of course, you've got a setting up Mega Gallade. Sorry, regular Gallade with Drain Punch and Shadow Sneak. I'd have liked to have seen Ice Punch over Shadow Sneak, because it'll still hit the Lati. And as he's already said, he's not afraid of the Lati. He's setting up on the Lati, so he doesn't need to try and outspeed it when he can just Ice Punch it in the face and then hopefully get health back with Drain Punch later. Ice Punch would have also helped against the Gliscor, which walled Gallade to hell and back, outsped and taunted it. So kind of really nipped that in the bud before Enzo could get it going. Wow. Okay. God damn it. It looked to kind of be the Entei versus Starmie show, and basically what it was going to come down to is who has to sack the most mons earliest. But Frito was able to get enough prior damage onto the Starmie to the point that extreme speed with Entei would OHKO. So there goes Starmie, and suddenly Entei basically has the game.
Yeah.
So Enzo decided to troll Frito. He has 6 HP left on his Mega Ordino, and he gets the triple protect. Enzo, you are an evil, beautiful man. I also quite like that, despite the fact that Megalopony didn't come...
it was there. It just didn't see the field.
It didn't see the field. The Steadfast on Gallade actually kicked in because of the Iron Head flinch.
Yep.
And the thing is, what's weird about that is that if it had more HP left, and Entei maybe had a little bit less, that suddenly could have been a real problem.
Yeah.
But Entei still has enough HP to take an unboosted Drain Punch. So, you know, Entei was still good to go. Unfortunate for Enzo. He had some very nice plans, but they didn't quite work out for him on the day. Entei is a god. It's basically
yeah. So Enzo's my number 8, so that's cool.
Nice.
You mentioned most of the things. You mentioned Ice Punch over Sneak on Gallade. I was going to say knockoff, but Ice Punch makes a lot more sense. Depends on what he wants to beat more, whether it be Gliscor or Uxie, between knockoff and Ice Punch. So, but Sneak wasn't the right choice. He realized that in his T-Build, I think, already.
Yeah.
So, the next two things I realized is no rocks versus an Entei, when Entei just decimates your entire draft. Questionable at best. You need to have rocks. If a fire type is that big of a threat, rocks. It's dealt with a lot more easily. He also could have brought something like Fizzdev Starmie, which might have been able to help with Entei. It's obviously not the best counter there is, but it's probably the best one Enzo has. And maybe a Fizzdev, I don't know, with Surf or something. I don't know. He had Fizzdev, but he was Calm Mind mono attacking, I think, with good old Dazzle. He should have a Hyper Voice, as he said himself. Probably would have been helpful. But it still would have done anything to Entei because it's an Entei. So yeah, that's all I have. And also shout out to the triple protect. I enjoyed that.
It was good fun. My number 8 is in fact going to be Sizz, who you've already talked about a little bit. No game against Richie for him, but as Schady has mentioned, he did play against Sly. And I agree with you on letting Registeel go down early was questionable because, you know, Kyurem, it's a Kyurem Black, it's a massive threat. You keep something around for it. Where, in fact, he did have something for it. I'm surprised you didn't mention Skuntank already.
Oh yeah, Skuntank did things.
Skuntank was able to tank hits all over the place. And it got 2 KOs, which was nice. It was really fun looking down the sort of the list of Sizz's mons after the game, the sort of fixture results, and you see Greninja and Mega Gallade with 0 and 0. They didn't even hit the field, I don't think. And then you see Licky Licky with 3 and 0, and Skuntank at 2 and 0, which was magnificent. I mean, Sly just didn't have anything for Licky Licky, as weird as it sounds. He just didn't have anything for it. He had no way of taking it down, and we'll talk about Sly in a little bit, but we've got another game to go over for Sly, so we'll talk about him a little bit here, I suppose. He didn't have the right sets. You know, I like that he was bringing offensive Mew, but it just wasn't the right offensive Mew to deal with the Licky Licky. He was prioritising other threats, rightly so, because Scissor's team is full of them.
Yeah.
But Licky Licky was just the one that kind of slipped under the radar, and he didn't have anything for it. It's kind of as simple as that. You've got this thing that can just heal itself up, body slam away, occasional fire blasts, and yeah, Sizz was pretty much good to go. A well-played game by Sizz. Yes, letting Registeel go down early, maybe a little bit questionable. Rest of the game, played beautifully well. Sizz, having started the season not quite so well, suddenly
this is now his official start to the season. This is week 1, so...
This is true, actually. I suppose, yeah, this is basically his start to the season. So he's had a really good start to the season, and then it's kind of slipped off a bit. A few things have not gone his way, but suddenly he's sitting at 3 and 3, and is looking quite threatening.
Yeah, if he doesn't bring HPS Mega Glade again, he could have
yes,
real
which
playoff
hopefully
chances.
he won't.
It's going to be HP Fire next, it's fine.
Oh, I hope so. I hope so.
For those Ferrothorns, which he can't deal with otherwise.
Yeah, which he can't hit otherwise, no.
So we're going to move on to number 7, where I think we agree with Sly, our fellow PPL member.
Yes, that is correct.
That's something. He had a Scarf Mew. Scarf Mew is always cool.
Yeah.
Having no means of dealing with Ferrothorn is not so cool. His only coverage for it was, I think, Fire Punch on Gramble, which doesn't kill, ever. This is a ban on Gramble, which it wasn't. So that was less than a deal.
Hey, stop stealing my lines. How dare you?
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
God damn it.
He then stole not stole. He had Cofagrigus Mummy, and then that happened against Zumro with Gramble, which was beautiful.
Yeah,
it wasn't planned,
I quite like
but it was
that.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Made the Zumro a lot less threatening. And then in the end, we had this little misplay where he might have been able to kill the Zumro with Whimsicott, maybe win the game if he would have gone for Yol Giga Drain, because I think Gassy got a low roll with Aqua Jet. And he went for Leech Seed because, hey, I can out-prioritize him, game's over anyway, but then he lived, and he was like, fuck. Basically
that was a mistake on Sly's part. You know, if you sort of weigh up his options of Leech Seed over Giga Drain, if he goes for Leech Seed, he has no chance of winning. If he goes for Giga Drain, he has the tiniest, most infinitesimally small, but still higher than Leech Seed, chance of winning. So I guess that was his play. He should have really gone for Giga Drain, but he knows that. As for the rest of his team, Mew was not the only Scarfer he brought. Excadrill, Scarfed, interesting set, Scarfed Excadrill with Rapid Spin, fair enough, and Toxic as well, for the likes of Alamomola, Cofagrigus, fair enough. Earthquake and X-Scissor. Now, he X X-Scissor for the Levitators, Hydreigon and Mesprit, but he also has Mold Breaker. I get that X-Scissor is super effective, but Earthquake is still going to do massive damage given that you are breaking the mold. Levitate doesn't matter anymore, and he could have had some kind of other form of coverage on his team. But if you wanted to go with X-Scissor for the Levitators, fair enough. Run Sand Rush. He was running Hippowdon with Sandstream, but he had no Sand Rush Excadrill. He didn't have any other Sand immunities on his team. So either, for me, don't run Sand on the Hippo, or run Sand Rush on the Excadrill. Especially if you want to be running X-Scissor. There was just a few strange plays for me from him. He predicted hazards from Pharaoh, having just revealed Taunt, but also then switches out into Whimsicott. Sorry, switches out his Whimsicott, which kind of I wasn't sure about. Like, if he's predicting Durable, yeah, fair enough. But if he's predicting hazards, he really shouldn't have been, because he literally just shown Taunt. So I didn't think Pharaoh had any reason to be going for hazards. But he's making safe plays early on, which is fair enough, but fast realised, as you mentioned, Ferrothorn is a huge issue when he only has Fire Punch. I quite like the bluff play that he went for. He sort of realised he has to get a bit clever to get around this Pharaoh. So he goes for a bluff play with Granbull, goes for a play rough predicting the protect to bluff the over prediction, and then goes for fire punch next turn and gets the burn, which is unfortunate. Gassy said he suspected that. I'm not sure how much I believe that. I'm not sure how much I believe that.
I do.
Like, I can believe that he suspected it had fire punch, but I'm not sure. I thought it was a nice play from Sly overall.
It was.
And he was sacking things off intelligently, which is a nice talent to be able to have in this format. You got to know when to sack things and how to sack them. So he sacks off his Mega Beedrill to use it as fodder to absorb T-Spikes on the way out. Very nice. Same thing with what you mentioned about passing Mummy around.
That's the best way to use Mega Beedrill. Just as a fodder.
As fodder. Yeah, this is true. Yeah, and we saw the whole thing with Mummy, and to say I'm not entirely sure how much Sly was meaning to do that, but it worked out well. And yeah, just the end game, if he played it a little bit differently, we might have seen a different result, but I guess he'd sort of got in his mind that he couldn't live an Aquajet, which I think was a fair enough assumption to make, but still Giga Drain was probably, I think, his best play in the end. But, you know, it is what it is, and you can look back on these things, but yeah, he still played a fairly nice game with some interesting ideas, some nice sets. It's always nice to see Mew not forced into that defensive role. Good to see that.
Yeah. So I guess we're just going to move on to number 6.
Yeah, I think so.
Which for me is Trip of the Dallas Storyverse. He finally moved up a little bit more. Deserved, because he has been playing pretty well this season, and I am pretty happy with his performance. I think he should be too, against Sky.
Yeah.
But there were, of course, as always, things I didn't like. And the only real big thing is that he didn't have rocks against Sky's team. I think that's a big draft issue that Trip has. He doesn't have the most reliable rockers. I can't think of what his rocker is right now because I'm bad. He has Celebi, and do you have anything else? Probably, hopefully.
I forget.
So do I. We totally know this. We're just hoping that you guys know.
This game. I can really quickly try and check. Hang on.
But
give me 2 seconds. Talk among yourselves, guys. Shoddy, entertain them.
Jesus,
Sing for
I was
them.
about
Dance.
to talk. Stop. Yeah, no rocks against Sky's team is a problem. He has Volcarona, Thunder Eye, and the option of very nice focus sash users in the form of Gengar, which is a common sash user and a very scary one. So that's an issue. What I did like, though, was a physically defensive Breloom, which takes on Lando T, unless it's the Lord Fly or Sludge Wave Lando. So that's pretty nice. I like that. It took a crit close comment from Heracross, which is fucking impressive.
Yeah.
The moveset itself, whether that's the best or not, we can talk about that. But I liked it. Defensive Breloom is a cool thing. Not very common, because it's not very good in stand-up play.
Yeah.
What I also didn't like is that he has this slow-ass team on his side, and he plays the fastest team in history, in Sky's team, and he didn't bring a single Scarfer. It worked out. Maybe it fits his playstyle more. I'm still not sure, but I assume it does. It just seems kind of very, very risky, because Sky has all these Cell Sweepers. If they get set up, Trip is in some huge trouble. But getting into the game, he played that game very, very well. He ensured KOs. He stayed in with Scissor, which he didn't need anymore, in his opinion, against Apollyon, so he can secure the KO on a Choppleberry Apollyon with his Mega Medicham. Like a Fizz Def, Choppleberry Apollyon could have lived from that range. He went for Everlace. Would have put him in range if he wouldn't have gotten burned. You know. But still, that was very nice. He tried to keep up T-Spikes off the field as best as possible. He did a decent job at it until late game, where T-Spikes were up. But he played that very well. And he also did a good job of what do I need, what don't I need, what do I sack. He did that very well. So overall, Trip played a very, very nice game. He deserved that victory, and yeah, he's moving up the rankings.
Absolutely. I'll talk about Trip as well in a little bit, but on my list, number 6 for me is actually going to be Fredo. Fredo and the Welshions, of course, taking the win over Enzo. He respects the power of Mega Ordino, as I mentioned before. I approve. Well done, Fredo. You are learning.
Power.
Taunt Gliscor, necessary to shut down some of Enzo's trickier stuff. Maximizes the bulk, and I believe he was still able to outrun Max Nidoqueen, which was nice. Want to be able to not take an ice beam from that potentially and get off an earthquake. Latios able to live what I've got written down as Skucker Punch, which is not correct. Sucker Punch from Bisharp with the Coldberry hit back with
It's
Impact.
always
Fighting.
important to have a Skucker Punch.
This is true. This is very true. And I like Power Up Punch Uxie. That's a cool guy.
Yeah.
Now, as we say, getting into the game, as you mentioned, no rocks brought against Frito. However, Frito gets rocks up turn 1, and very crucially, he gets Entei in early, before Ordino has megaed.
Yeah.
Because as he mentioned in his team builder, tell me what reliably switches into Entei. Mega Ordino switches into Entei. Regular Ordino does not.
Yeah.
So he knows this. He knows that Mega Ordino is the only potential reliable switch-in. So he gets Entei in literally as early as he possibly can. Ordino hasn't megaed, it's not a switch-in. Now, his opponent, Enzo, is got to know that Entei is going to be coming back every single time. So he needs Ordino to mega up. So he has to switch into something else. He has to switch into Starmie, but it's not actually a switch.
Yeah.
It still takes enormous damage, and there's the sort of early, sort of telegraphed result of Starmie versus Entei. You know, at this point, Entei's already won that matchup. Starmie's taken massive, massive damage, and it pressures Enzo not to lock in on Rapid Spin, so those rocks are there to stay. So a really well-played early game by Frito, I think.
Yeah.
And yeah, Gliscor was putting pressure on all over the place. There was a little bit of a scare against him with that Gallade that we spoke about earlier, but he's able to put enough pressure on with Taunt Gliscor. He works out Starmie as specs, so he knows that when it's locked in on Psyshock, he can keep bringing back in Entei without a problem. And yeah, we mentioned that he's got enough damage to the point where E-Speed will kill. So Entei has basically won the game for him. Really intelligently played game by Frito. A very well-deserved win. He built well. He knew what he needed to win. He put pressure on early, and it was just a very well-played game by him.
Yep. I guess we're gonna move on to my number 5 then, which is still the Skyrender. He played Trip. He lost to Trip. These plays are good against Trip's team. I like that idea. I also like that he made use of his speed advantage, which he definitely has in his matchup. He did that very well team lane wise. When it comes to the game, I think he just got outplayed by Trip, because Trip, as I said, played a really, really good game. And Sky just had Trip had the upper hand by a little bit. It's not that Sky played a bad game at all. It's just I feel like Trip played better, and that's basically the whole story of the game in my humble opinion. So yeah, that's all I gotta say for now, because I know that you have stuff that you want to say. I will leave that to you because I'm a nice person.
Oh, thank you, Schady. No, you're not, but thanks. Okay, so we'll move on to my number 5. And that is in fact going to be Sky's opponent, which is Trip. Trip is really rapidly moving up. As we've mentioned before, he had a bit of a bad start to the season when he lost to Paralysis a lot.
And he has this draft, which no one likes, but it's working.
Yeah, but he's getting really back into it with some very nice performances and a good winning streak. Once again, just to be a bit careful about overplaying something that you have as a threat. It says that he has nothing that beats Mega Medicham. The Volcarona walled his set.
Yeah.
And Volcarona was a big threat, which both coaches identified early on. Now, as I said on Tuesday, I think it was, when the news went up, you've got Sky with his ridiculously hyper offense team. Now, there are two ways of dealing with this. Bring hyper offense of your own, which Trip does not have, because he doesn't have the speed, or you bring all of the bulk, and Trip opted to bring all of the bulk. AV Snorlax, defensive Carmine Florges, defensive Defog Scizor, Spadef Arcanine, all of it. Physically defensive, bulky Seed, Sub, Stall, Toxic Breloom, and Mega Medicham. Which is always nice to have one thing that can guarantee getting big hits off. That Breloom set, very interesting. We both like it, because Fizdef Breloom, how often do you see that? Very crucially, on the ladder, you don't see it very often. But what you do see on the ladder very often is your regular offensive Breloom, which you don't see in League play, because it's not very good in League play, because it's too slow and it's too frail. But, very interestingly, he's brought this set that you don't normally see. He's brought a defensive Breloom, and it worked. So it just goes to show there are these mons that don't get drafted very often, because they're seen to be not very good in the format, Tripp's got one of them in the form of Breloom, and he's found a way to make it really useful. So full credit to him there. Hats off for making that Breloom work. I've spoken about the game at length earlier on in the Union News. You know, Tripp getting massive first turn crit fake out onto Landorus Therian, that came into play later. Yeah. But Shardy's said a lot about what I'd want to say about Tripp. He's played a very, very intelligent game. You know, his use of Scizor, you know, making sure that rocks aren't around or toxic spikes aren't around. You know, he knows he can get a slow defog off versus Empoleon, so he can keep going for it, get chip damage when he can, and then look to threaten with Mega Medicham. Takes out Drapion, takes out Yachi, Landorus Therian, and, you know, he was able to save enough mons to the point where Arcanine could deal with Heracross in the end. Now, Sky, I will talk about your lack of luck when I talk about you a bit later on, so don't fret. That is in my mind. I've got you covered, my friend. I'll talk about your lack of luck, but Tripp, quite aside from getting a bit fortunate, he built a nice team. He had some very intelligent spreads. He played a very intelligent game. Well-deserved win. Full credit to him. Well played.
Yep. The thing I also want to mention, I kind of forgot, is Mega Medicham against Sky's team. A lot of people would probably also look at it the way it's kind of slow against Sky's team. I don't want to bring it because things outspeed like Gengar, etc. Thundy, whatever else that he has. Tripp doesn't care. Tripp sees the thing, destroys. It outspeeds enough things to do damage and can take hits from enough things, at least one, to do damage.
Yeah.
Very nice. I like that. I was kind of iffy on it, not gonna lie, but it worked fantastically, so very good job.
This is true.
So, moving on to number 4 for me is still Frito, for I think the 3rd time in a row, because Frito is number 4.
I like how in your list Frito has just stayed at 4, and for me he's gone like up by 2 and down by 2 and up by 3, and he's all over the place on my list.
Because I am consistent. Go on.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So yeah, Frito played Enzo. He beat Enzo because Entei is a thing, and it's ow. Power Punch Uxie is a pretty cool guy. I like it. Mega Audino was a huge threat to his team. I looked down his team and was like, oh, this does work. He doesn't have a whole lot that just beats it. Ends up not being that big of a problem because Entei is a god. So that's the thing. Subtoxic Megalopony is also really, really nice for the likes of Gourgeist, because Gourgeist is gonna click Will-O-Wisp against Megalopony, so you can set up a sub. Toxic on the switch beforehand and then sub, etc., etc. You know the deal. I liked it a lot. I like seeing all those non-standard Megalopony set in League play because.
See, I had that on my list, but I left it for you to talk about.
That's so cute of you. Yeah, I like seeing the creative Megalopony sets in League play because it's a really fucking good Pokemon in League play. Shut up, Shroom. Toxic also, of course, works for Mega Audino if it doesn't have Heal Bell or Rest. That's very nice. Another decent switch into Megalopony. But I didn't like that you have mentioned, but not really, is that he didn't play well around Sub-Bulk Up Gallade. It took him a while to realize, this doesn't work. I have to go into something like Gliscor. He kind of scouted the set out, which was good, but leaving Vaporeon in, etc. wasn't the optimal play because Sub-Bulk Up Gallade is going to beat Vaporeon 10 out of 10 times, unless it's the legendary Mono Water Punch Gallade, which I think doesn't beat it. But
well, there's always Hidden Power
of course,
Water.
Sub-Bulk Up, Hidden Power Water, and then
Will-O-Wisp.
No, sub again. Easy.
Just in case you get stored out subs.
It's so easy. Anyway, yeah, Gallade beats Vaporeon. Full stop. So that's all I have that you didn't mention. Frito played a pretty solid game because he has an Entei. The early pressure was nice, and then more pressure because more Entei. It's funny because the ability is pressure. Yeah. That was not intentional.
I see you. Sure. Yeah, I can believe that.
You would imply that I am creative enough to make bad puns. I am not.
No, I would never imply that you're creative enough. No, not at all. I wouldn't lie to the public. What are you talking about? Anyway, moving on to my number 4, and that is going to be Skyrander. Sky and Scandinavian Scoutlands. That's not right at all.
Not with that attitude.
The Scandinavian Stoutlands. His team is very hard for me to say, but I'm getting there.
Meanwhile, you say Dungan and Typhlosions like it's nothing.
It is nothing. It's fine. Shut up. Anyway, Sky versus Tripp, of course. Taunt Gengar. I like it. Taunt is nice on Gengar. It's fast. It uses Taunt. It's cool people. Scarfed Guts Heracross is nice. You know, it's more usual to see Moxie Scarf, but Tripp does have a few statuses kicking around that Sky would not want to probably take on. So yeah, Scarf Guts, that's nice. Shooker and Polion, he's built this quite well. You know, it takes a +1 Earthquake from Dragonite or an Earth Power from Celebi, so good building on his part there. No defog on his side. You know, looking at Trip, he has one Stealth Rocker in the form of Celebi. I did look that up while you were talking about it. He does also have Diancie, who unfortunately never made it off the bench. So just the one rocker in the form of Celebi. Yeah. And also, he's got hazards of his own. T-Spikes Drapion. Yay! He's brought it at last. Oh, I'm so happy. I'm so happy to see it. And he was trying to use it fairly effectively, you know. Trying to keep the pressure on with his Toxic Spikes, and he did well with it. You know, we've talked about how Trip played effectively with Sizzle versus Empoleon. You know, knowing that Sizzle's going to go down, but knowing he can get the slow defog off. But Sky adapts to this. He sees the plan. He goes into Drapion for the taunt and can get his T-Spikes up. Very nice indeed. He's of course brought this hyper offense with Nasty Plot Thunderous and Rock Polish Lando, so he wants hazards of support, which is good building. But as I mentioned a little bit ago, we can't talk about this battle without talking about how Sky did get unfortunate.
Yep.
He missed 2 Focus Blasts onto Snorlax. Now this was an Assault Vest Snorlax. Not one of them is not going to take it down, but
should have run HP fighting.
Probably. But if it had got at least one of those landed, you know, it just would have made the job easier later on, and he might have been able to keep his Thunderous around. He also missed, I think he missed another attack on there as well, potentially. Or was that just... Yeah, that's just another Focus Blast that he missed. So he misses 2 Focus Blasts. That's very unfortunate. He also gets critted turn 1 by that Fake Out that we mentioned onto Landorus Therian. Now that matters later on because Mega Medicham Mega Medicham is in. Landorus comes in to get it to -1 with the Intimidate. Ice Punch lands. He's got a Yachi Berry, but that crit from earlier means that Ice Punch does take it out. So Sky does get unfortunate, you know. It seems likely that Trip could have clutched the game with even if the one of the Focus Blasts onto Snorlax had hit, but it just would have been a bit more dodgy. Sky's ideas, I think, was... I'm so good at this game. You know, Sky's ideas, I think, were spot on. I like the ideas he was bringing. It's just that a combination of him getting very unfortunate at crucial times and going up against a purpose-built team that was just so well built, you know, bred for this exact game. Very well built by Trip. Sky gets unlucky, you know. It's not, he didn't build a bad team, he gets unlucky, and on the day, the team that Trip built was excellent. So yeah, Sky, you know, this won't set him back too much. He's still looking good. He's still shown how well he can use his team. If he gets more fortunate in other games, or at least doesn't get as unfortunate, things will get back on track for him, I think.
Yeah, I agree. So, we're gonna move on to number 3, which we agree on. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, we do. We both have Eric at number 3. He lost to Josh. His team is an Eric team. It's pretty nothing crazy. It's very solid. But it struggles with Ormatisse, like a lot. He has nothing for it. Absolutely nothing. And that's what he ran on his draft. Yeah, that was basically the story. He didn't have anything for Ormatisse. That made him struggle a lot in the game. Made him make some plays that didn't quite work out for him. He tried to take it out, but it was Spadef. He tried to get a poison. Wouldn't have worked out anyway. And it's just Ormatisse. It was there, and it was fat. And I feel you, Eric. I was in a similar situation before against Ormatisse. It's not fun. We learned prep for Ormatisse a lot.
He was expecting a physically defensive set to try and deal better with Tyrantrum.
Reasonable.
Which is reasonable, but you know, I spoke at length earlier on in the week about this specific Aromatisse build, and I'll mention it again a bit more briefly when I talk about Josh. But I think that the specially defensive set was a very good decision, and I'll go into reasons why.
Because it won.
You know, yeah, well, that too. But you know, Eric was sort of fast realizing I have nothing for this Aromatisse. Like, he had Sludge Bomb on Tangrowth, which was not even close to being a 2-hit KO. And he just found himself being forced into Monty didn't want to be forced into. He tries to take advantage by getting the guts boost from a toxic aimed at Milotic, but he didn't have poison jab.
Yeah.
He was able to bluff for the poison jab, but it kind of only delays Aromatisse doing work. You know, it forces it out in the short term, but in the long term, he's going to realise that that there's no poison jab. What I think Eric is trying to do here is just temporarily force it out, and in turn doing so, get rid of the answers to Tyrantrum, get Tyrantrum in, get set up, try and get set up with Tyrantrum before this Aromatisse can become a problem, or indeed before Zygarde can do it. Unfortunately for him, we saw him bring in Tyrantrum on a double down, and his opponent, Josh, brings in Zygarde, which is just the one thing he didn't want to see, because I believe the Zygarde was scarfed. So, you know, he has to switch Tyrantrum out. Then, one problem goes down, another one takes its place. Manaphy becomes Eric's problem. Miracoat Milotic just didn't take it out. That means he has to lose Tangrowth, and that means Zygarde is going to be able to take the end game.
Basically, yeah. Josh had a very nice team. Eric didn't play badly, unlike last week where he didn't play well. It's just that he didn't have anything for Aromatisse, which kind of started everything to go down the drain. There we go.
Yeah.
I can English. So yeah, that's basically the whole story of that. You mentioned all the things because you are Shroom and you talk a lot.
This is true. He also had Rock Polish Tyrantrum, which is the best.
Fuck off. I hate
But he had Outrage. I'd have preferred to see Dragon Claw simply because his opponent has a Rachi and a Aromatisse.
Don't talk about Rock Polish Tyrantrum. I'm still upset. Rock Polish Aromatisse. There we go. Yep.
Easy. The easiest of metas.
Moving on to number 2. And there are only
Yes.
2 people left, and we disagree, so you can kind of guess who's where and what and how, and it's also on the screen probably, but shh. No logic around these parts. Number 2 for me is still Josh. So my top 5 actually haven't changed this week, which is interesting. Josh, as we already talked about the match a lot right now, but he beat Eric with Aromatisse plus Manaphy plus Zygarde. Nice to see. He played Manaphy very well. Did he have U-turn? Was that what happened? Yeah, that was the one. U-turn Manaphy. I love it. It's beautiful. Because no one expects U-turn Manaphy ever. Because why would you? Because Tailglow and Calm Mind are ow and spook. And
and that's the beauty of Manaphy. You don't expect the U-turn, you expect the setup, so you bring in whatever you've got to deal with Manaphy's specific setup. It U-turns out, he gets initiative, and suddenly you're in this room.
And you're also confused because what set is this? Is it still a setup one?
Yeah.
Is it a choiced one? Is it a physical one? What is it? That's the good thing about U-turn Manaphy. Maybe it's a defensive one. You will not know until something happens, and then it might already be too late. So yeah, that's very nice, and Josh, he played it very well. The whole energy ball shenanigans like later on, etc. And yeah, Manaphy put work, and then Zygarde put in work, and then of course Aromatisse did a thing, but that's Aromatisse doing things. And Split F Aromatisse is very interesting because you usually see a more Fizz Def or at least mixed def variant, but he decided for Split F this week, which ended up being a very, very nice decision on his part. And the fat ugly thing that's really good for some reason did all the work.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I'm gonna leave the rest to you as always because I'm a nice person.
Oh, thank you, you're so kind. My number 2 is the only one left who I haven't talked about that isn't Josh, and that is Gassy.
The only one is left I haven't talked about that isn't Josh. Nice.
Shut. I've got Gassy at number 2. He beat Sly, of course. Bandit Azu is back, and it's back and it's speed creeping, which is fairly spoopy. I like Pharaoh. Nice check to Excadrill, completely walled by Whimsicott without packing Gyro Ball. And yeah, once again we see the use of Hazard Stack. He knows that Sly only has Mew, who he rightly said doesn't want to be forced into a defensive role specifically versus his own team. He knew that. Excadrill, who also prefers to be offensive, or Mega Beedrill.
Which is a Mega Beedrill.
Yeah, but no. So, semi-offensive Sandvale Donphan, you cheeky little shit.
I like it.
You cheeky person, how dare you. That was
Beautiful. I loved it. It was amazing.
I don't even know what to say to that. But you know, he knows that Sand's coming. He's got no reason not to do it. There's nothing saying he can't. So yeah, fair play to him, I suppose. Well, not fair play. Let's be real.
I mean, it was fair.
But he was able to abuse the situation that his opponent brought. So it was at the very least intelligent building.
Use his opponent's
gives himself an extra
strength
chance
to your advantage. Basically.
Absolutely. You know, and Gassy was looking to continue where he left off last time. Last time he started off very well with early Toxic Spike's pressure. He tries to do this again, but he comes up against Taunt Whimsicott. So he can't do that, but he's content to just wear down Sly's team where he can, and that makes Azumarill just look scarier and scarier and scarier. As your team takes more chip damage, and your opponent has an Azumarill that he hasn't even gone into yet, that's not a good position to be in. But he came up against a somewhat accidental mummy transfer strategy, I suppose we'd call it, for want of a better phrase, from Sly, means that Azu can be forced out. And he did get unfortunate, you know, Mesprit gets critted by Whimsicott, which means that he can't Healing Wish into Ferrothorn, which is, I think, what he wanted to do.
You enjoyed it.
So yeah, that
Don't
was
lie, you enjoyed
unfortunate.
seeing
Oh, I love seeing Mesprit go down without doing what it wants to do. I love it. Uxie Master Race.
that. Racist. I mean, what?
I mean, nay. Yeah, Donphan versus Hippo is just, that's potentially a horrifically boring matchup to watch. But hell, Gassy spiced it up by avoiding an earthquake, which I quite enjoyed.
Gassy thinks about his viewers while building. Such a nice person.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and then we see the end game where Azu was able to clean things up. Could have been a bit hairy if Whimsicott had gone full Giga Drain.
Yeah.
But, you know, Sly believes the game is over. He goes for Leech Seed, thinking that's his best idea. And he doesn't have the right move to lock in with Mew. So, yeah, Gassy takes the win, gets himself really back on track in a good way. He's still only lost one game, and yeah, he's looking strong.
Yeah, this is why he is my number one. You
Indeed.
mentioned most of the things, as always, because you are Shroom.
I'll try and not do that in the future.
Please keep doing it. It makes my job easier.
Okay, fair enough.
What I really liked is that he saw what you mentioned, the hazard removal issue that Sly's draft has. Mew doesn't want to do it. I know Sly doesn't want Mew to do it. At least I'm pretty sure he doesn't want to because it's boring. And Escrill gets walled by Cofagrigus. And it can't spin when Cofagrigus is around. Which is good.
Yeah.
Which is why T-Spikes on Cofagrigus was a very, very nice idea. Unfortunately got taunted by Whimsicott turn 1, which you don't see taunt Whimsicott very often. I don't blame him. I think he was kind of expecting it, but as he said what he said, well, I don't believe Gassy ever, because he smells. Shit talk 101.
When in doubt, say that Gassy smells.
Because gas...
That is the way to go.
Huh? Get it? Anyway. I lost my train of thought. Rip the dream.
Toxic Spikes on
that's a cool thing.
Cofagrigus.
It worked well.
Yeah.
And like, if you have T-Spikes up and Azumarill in the back, you're probably going to win. Because Azumarill does ow to everything. Because Azumarill, and I hate it. In the most positive way possible.
Whoa. I hate it in the most positive way possible.
That's the thing. Shut up.
Is it a thing?
It is now. Shut up. He also obviously benefited from Sly not having anything to kill a Ferrothorn, which made Ferrothorn just kind of sit there and do its thing. Which further weakened Sly's team for Azumarill to just kill everything ever. So that also worked out for him. Everything just worked out for him, and then Azumarill did all the ow in history. And you mentioned everything else because you are Shroom Rambler.
I do what I can. But yeah, I guess with that we can move on to my number one slot, and as it was last week, so it remains. We have Josh and Slateport Vale still undefeated. He's having a fantastic season so far. This specially defensive Aromatisse, I'll talk about again. Yeah, it's a good decision. Eric's physical attackers will either destroy it, in the case of Tyrantrum or physical Nidoking, or lose to it 1v1, in the case of non-poison Jab Conk, Honchkrow and Sharpedo. Whether it's physical or not, that's still going to happen. So this way, it doesn't really make too much of a difference. he can run specially defensive and take on Eric's special threats just that little bit better. And crucially, all of Eric's walls, I think, were mostly or fully special. So this way it can just take them on better, especially when Tangrowth, having been scouted out very effectively, was tricked to Scarf from Latias. Suddenly it's got no Assault Vest. Suddenly it's not as good as a special wall anymore, and Josh has got him a bit cornered. He played Jirachi versus Honchkrow very well. The ballsy staying in on the pursuits to paralyse it, but I suppose if he was expecting Sucker Punch, that was fair enough as well. He then sees the Sucker Punch coming, goes for the Wish. And Eric does eventually get it right. He gets a massive pursuit hit off on Jirachi, but who comes in? Aromatisse. And now Eric is right back where he started, and he was getting frustrated, and he was getting a little bit panicky about it. Rightly so, because he's suddenly got no way of dealing with this. Dragon versus Dragon. Dragon wins, as of course we know. It was unfortunate for Eric that matchup happened on Double Down, because his Tyrantrum couldn't set up. I believe Zygarde was scarfed. Eric has to switch into Tangrowth. Josh predicts the hidden Power Ice very nicely, and he's able to go into Manaphy. Having choiced this thing, it now has to go for hidden Power Ice. Manaphy can start doing things, and it starts doing things. Words. Manaphy can start doing things. You know, he knows that this thing has to switch out, and Manaphy can do what Manaphy does. In this case, it was U-turning. You know, he's able to get initiative and really throw Eric for a loop once again. Until the point where, you know, Tangrowth has to go down, and now, as soon as Tangrowth goes down, Josh is thinking, get Zygarde in, because it's time. He can lock himself on Outrage. Eric, to his credit, played the end game as well as he could. You know, he has 3 Mons left. Zygarde goes for Outrage. He has to bank on the 2-turn Outrage. He just had to.
Yeah.
But, unfortunately for Eric, and fortunately for Josh, he gets 3-turn. Outrage is going to decimate everything that's left, and yeah, Josh, once again... What does it take to beat this guy? What does it take? What do you have for a well-played Josh?
Hopes and dreams.
This is undoubtedly true.
Probably T-Waves, because he's going to get a parrot as well at some point.
Yeah, but he's Josh. He's not going to get parrot himself.
It has to come back to him. Because you're going to get crit this season, he's going to get a parrot at some point. It's all going to work out in the end.
Well, we'll have to wait and see if that happens, because this is going to bring an end to the week's power rankings. So, thank you all very much for watching. We do hope that you have enjoyed. Obviously, there will be battles. This is a bit later on in the week than we'd like. So, battles and team building videos will already be up on our coach's channel. So, make sure you head over to them and check them out to see exactly what's going down in the Week 7 games. But, unless, have you got anything more to add, Charlie?
Not particularly. Nope.
Alrighty then, in that case, we will wrap things up. Stay tuned on this channel next week for more analytical videos, but we're going to get out of here. So our final thank you to you all for watching, and yeah, we're going to get out. Take care, TBU fans. See you later.
Goodbye.